Are we ready to go?
We're on.
Okay, can you press play on the map? And that should be alright. This is, just make sure this is G. Alright.
Oh, is that a Blue Yeti?
Fuck, yeah it is. Do you use this for your podcast?
No, we have, I don't know why Ali got them, just really, fuck, I don't even know what they are, but you know those mics where you see like someone getting interviewed and there'd be like 10 microphones in front of them and...
The dead cat sort of vibe on the end, is that what they're called?
No, it's just the one in the corner that you know is from like community radio.
Yeah, okay.
Like all the other ones look very good, but not here. I use that in videos. So the Blue Yeti is great.
Just like the big one, because this is the new one, but here's the big one.
Yeah.
Alright, nice. Well,
have you used it before?
Yeah, I've used it like every time. Okay. Yeah, this is like the 10th podcast that we've done, right? Yeah, so congratulations on number 10. Yeah.
What else you do?
We did like, just like local bands, comedians.
People who just kind of like are doing things.
Yeah, just interesting stuff.
Yeah.
We don't really
it's always different, like each time it's always like a mix, I guess.
This is our second comedian though, so you know.
Yeah, our first was number 1 and you're number 10. So.
Okay, nice.
Was it?
Yeah, there's Emo, he's a Sudanese guy.
Yeah.
He's over in US at the moment. He's just like starting up in Perth, like he's not got a huge platform yet. But yeah, Emo.
He started in Perth and he just went straight to America.
He's just there at the moment traveling. I think he's
just traveling.
I just sort of posted it today.
I think he's doing his thing over there as well. But yeah, so you're on tour right now, right?
Yeah, well, sort of.
Yeah. How many tours have you done?
Sandy, help.
So is that
I don't know.
How many
Three?
tours? 3?
Maybe I've done 3 tours. Is that right? Like a tour would just include the show that you're displaying.
Yeah, okay.
I've done 3. This is my 3rd tour.
Okay, yeah. And like, what's your headspace like on your tour? Are you relaxed or are you...
Like, what do? You fly around and you sit around in houses and you watch a lot of Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
So.
I actually really like
You work like a narrator. Who doesn't?
He's so good. He has his own podcast now, actually. Yeah, he's good. He's going with the wave. So pretty relaxed.
Can't take him down,
No, yeah, he's so good.
It'll be like 20 years in the future and there'll just be holograms of Dr. Phil everywhere.
Everyone can
get what a better world.
Oh, you can get your own personal Dr. Phil in your house.
Oh,
That'd be sick, yeah.
Yeah, like,
whoa,
that's
it's
Each of those holograms are just mares.
You're doing it again, Shaq. You're doing it again. My mate went and saw you on Wednesday. He said he had a lot of fun. He said it's more or less a bit of a liberal rant, which is exactly what he expected.
Yeah, what did he expect? So he should have.
Yeah, so it's called John Howard Really Sucked.
Yeah.
What are you talking about when you're up on stage?
You know what it is? It's an hour of that one point that you hear over and over, that liberals are awesome economic managers. Give me any reason why you think that's true. Surplus under John Howard. Game, set and match. It's just an hour ridiculing that one point. Because there's so much you have to say to point out how stupid it is to use a point of economic measurement that no economist uses to measure how an economy is doing as why they're a good economic manager.
Yeah.
So that's the whole nut and the bolt of it. It just started out with me trying to turn that into a video, and then it just kept going from there. And if I could, I'd make it go for 2 hours. I'm that confident. It's just a terrible argument.
Yeah, because a lot of the people that I spoke to before this past election, I was like, who are you going to vote for? And a lot said the Liberals. And I go, when you say why the Liberals, they go, economics. Like, they're really good economic managers. Like, our economy's a little bit shit right now. They're going to make it better. And I was like, well, they've been in for the past couple of years. Yeah,
with no economic sense as well. Like, just
Wait, you know what I remember last night as well? We went to interview people on election day. We went to the polling booth, and I saw one of our mates' exes there. She'll remain unnamed, And I asked her, I said, who did you vote for today? She goes, the Liberals. And I go, why did you vote for the Liberals? She goes, I really care about the environment, and I think that they're going to do some good. I know, we just looked at each other like, holy shit. And I thought about you.
Did you ask her?
Yeah.
Did you ask her why she thought that?
Yeah, I was just like,
It was clear that there was no point in asking. It was just clear that it was just like, oh yeah, alright, yeah.
I thought about you straight away. I was just like, man, you just be like bashing your head against the wall if you heard something like that.
Yeah. That and also, I voted for the hottest candidate. Heard that 4 or 5 times in my life.
Yeah. Well, no,
Wow, I've never
somewhat common.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that apparently most US presidents were the tallest candidate wins every year. It's just the tallest candidate. So I don't know what that is about, but yeah, tall and hot seem to equate sometimes.
Not even necessarily tall and hot, but like height and confidence, is it?
Yeah.
Or just people are scared of tall people?
Yeah.
In fact, it's broken down into 4 categories. It's whatever president sounds the best, looks the best, gives off the best vibe, and also is most congruent. Now, congruency is more important than these 3 factors. So, for instance, with Donald Trump, it doesn't really matter that he's actually quite an ugly man.
Yes.
I think he is tall.
He's very
He kind of sounds good, but his voice is funny at the same time. I mean, look, he was versing Hillary Clinton, so he wins out on those things, I guess. But the congruency thing of work, it doesn't matter if that man's lying or telling the truth. He just seems extremely confident.
Yeah.
At any moment.
His message is the same, and then it for simple-minded people who, most people, don't pay attention to the news, don't pay attention to politics, because it's hard work to do that, It's a headache. So if he puts out a simple message, that's going to win, Yeah, people are going to like that.
For me, with Trump, as a candidate for politics, if someone can take a supercut of your speeches and stuff, and then put in the hole in the Mountain King under it, they can do that to you. I'm sorry, but I don't understand how people can be like, oh yeah, he's a good guy, a little stand-up guy.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you know what? You raised a good point. That's actually a really good way to assess characters.
Really?
I agree.
Try to do it with Bernie, because the thing
You
is,
can't.
you can't. And then
Bernie's so
Trump
good.
never shares any Bernie videos, but Bernie shares the fuck out of Trump.
Yeah?
Yeah, because he can. He can just take any video of Trump and be like, look how weird this guy is.
I still don't reckon Bernie would win if he went against Trump.
Wouldn't dare do that with Bernie because everything Bernie says is just so concise and so logical and to the point.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's the reason why he's extremely popular as well. And it's not well, I mean, obviously, the message is on point or whatever, but it again goes down to congruency because nobody seems more congruent than Bernie Sanders. I suppose it's just because it's exactly what he believes. Sorry. Musings.
Yeah, so what do you reckon politicized you initially then? You don't just sort of get born and you just become political. Something, what sort of drove you to that area mainly?
No. Well, I mean, I was always somewhat interested in politics.
Yeah.
More so than the average person. But I think it was mainly that my friend, when I was in year 12, just said, you get to get a free trip overseas for a year if you do international politics. And so I did it. I didn't realise it's just the government just puts it on loan. You still have to pay for that trip.
Oh my god! That's a priceless lesson.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, no. Dude, you can just learn it from virtually any CEO at Channel 9. It's like their mantra in life of there's no such thing as a free lunch. I learned that the hard way, man. And so, and that's what happened. And then after that, honestly, everything that I've said this before on my other channel, but everything that I learned in that degree was completely useless. The only thing that I learned that was of any use whatsoever was when I was in Korea overseas for that year, because the guy was from Canada and the dean spoke Korean, so didn't know what he was teaching. But if you're getting taught politics in a Western country, they don't teach you actually how politics works. They teach you how to get a job in bureaucracy. They just teach you how to be a cog, man.
Yeah, and you don't want to be a cog, do you? That's the exact opposite. Yeah.
Which is why I'm wearing branded clothes.
When you started doing YouTube stuff and all that, it wasn't initially political, I'm assuming?
No, but it became political very quickly.
Yeah. How quickly?
Probably about 4 months.
Okay.
And then before that, it was just toying around with YouTube. But now, when I look back at those videos, I think that was my best work. It's
I remember you
slow downhill. No.
Oh, early.
Before you, man. Sorry.
There we go.
This was just when it was
I would
just
have
me.
been little then.
Huh?
How long ago was that? You said 9 years or something?
No.
Much older.
God, it's close.
Oh, you're old. You are.
So good. You guys just kind of went dark in my vision. Everything just went real black. Yeah, like it was close though. It was like 6 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, yeah. What a ride. It was just sitting in front of a laptop for 6 years.
Were you doing stand-up before you were doing your videos, or what was the order there?
Technically, but are you really doing stand-up if you're performing in front of 10 drunks at a bar that are pissed off that they can't hear the greyhound race in the background? Does that count?
Do you like doing stand-up better than you do your videos?
Good question. Yes. But you have to understand how stand-up works, and that takes years.
Yeah, I tried once, but I bombed really hard.
It was great.
Yeah, he was there for
What
it.
did you expect?
Yeah. No, because
What did you think you'd kill at your first?
Yes, I was. Yeah,
It was good.
No, because as I was walking up there, everyone got 3 minutes because it was like a newbie.
It was like an open mic.
Open mic. And then as I was walking up, the guy goes, "All right, time's running out. We're gonna have to cut this 1 1/2." I was like, "Okay." Well, then immediately you just fucked me up there. I have to like quickly reorder it in my head, and then.
So he kind of like he gave me like the 3 minutes before, but he kind of like boiled it down to like a minute and a half about crack. So he just talked about crack for like
yeah,
it was a real story.
I had some
It was just like
about crack. Yeah.
he talked about.
And then when it came to
just
the
a crack
punchline.
in Perth, and then it was just kind of like, all right, it's time. All right, thanks.
Yeah, there was literally like one of those like stereotypical like Simpsons crowds where there's like a like in the crowd, and it was like it was bad. It scarred me for life. I haven't been back ever since, but I really want to go back there.
And that's when we met Emo.
It was actually.
We met Emo there. The
That's the
meeting,
first guest. Yeah.
And fancy that. Did he do better or no?
Oh,
Did anyone do well? Does anyone ever do well in open mic?
I probably did the worst. Yeah, I probably did the worst.
Oh no, there was some shockers.
Yeah.
There was people that were just like they come out and it was just like blatant misogyny that they just it was like how are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like one made a joke about like I went into the women's toilet. They're like, what are you talking about?
Oh, that's awesome.
It was great. No, we had a great time.
Mike's up, but look, it's I don't know. It's like there's this full circle thing where you just realize that nothing is worse than bad comedy, and then after a while you realize that like no, nothing is better than bad comedy. That's the next stage, because like after a while, like nothing really. When you've been doing stand-up comedy for a long time, nothing surprises you anymore because it's just a few levers that you're pulling over and over.
Okay, yeah.
Unless they're extremely creative and different, like, and pretty much it's Steve Martin and that's about it. And everyone else is kind of just doing the same thing.
Who would you put as like the creme de la creme in your eyes of the stand-up world?
I would actually put Rodney Rood.
Was actually my first ever.
Who was Rodney Rood?
No,
you don't know him?
Yeah, because he used to come and like
you should just you should have your citizenship revoked for that. It's actually basically treason, but continue.
Yeah, no.
I only had my citizenship because my parents did it before I was of age. So. I'm an immigrant, so.
Yeah, you're an immigrant.
That explains a lot. Alright, now you.
Yeah, because I remember my first ever. Still on Australian. Yeah,
I just think about
It's totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Rodney Rood, just for your edification, I suppose everyone else listening knows, but he's.
Wait, did you say edification?
Yeah.
I've never heard that word before.
Do you know what it means?
Edification. Through context, I'm just going to go for your information.
Yeah.
Make clear, really.
Yeah, to make it clear, edification. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, so Rodney Rood, he was very big in the 80s, and as his name suggests, he is really rude. But this is what you don't understand. Everyone always goes, oh, you know, lowbrow humour, it's so easy, it's just an easy laugh, it's crap. And no. Yes, true, it is an easy laugh. But what is not easy is making a dick joke creative.
Yeah.
Or making, because lowbrow humour is the base of all humour. I've come to this conclusion because I've studied the area at an academic level for a very long time. And I've come to the conclusion that Jackass is the best humour of all time.
Okay, yeah.
Definitely, because like no one doesn't not laugh at it. It's amazing that it's just a bunch of stone skaters that crack the code. And then after that it's Rodney Root. And again, it's because he is using blue humour in a completely different way, and you will not find more cleverly constructed jokes. There is a guise behind it. There is a genius.
Well, that's the thing, like, you say like I guess like lowbrow humor. If it's just lowbrow humor, that's all you're doing, and you're trying to get the jokes by like, oh, it's a silly word, it's a taboo word, we can't say, haha, that's funny. That's not funny. It has to be the joke itself, and it's, if anything, it's funny despite the lowbrow humor.
Yes.
Like I love my favorite show is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I reckon they just do so well with that. Like they just go over the line, and it's been around for so long, and they've been going over the line for so long. But it's just hilarious. I love that show with all my heart.
Yeah, the writing between the line is the place to
genius in it, and you can't help but just respect the how lowbrow it is, really. just Danny DeVito coming out of the couch naked. Yeah. It's like the peak, I reckon, of that show.
And not many people like
like
that sort of humor, you know what I mean? Yeah, not many people can laugh at that shit. It's
But that says something more. That's says something more about you than the joke itself.
100%. Yeah, I wanted to get your professional opinion on something. So, you know how Boris Johnson just got elected?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is like pretty similar in my eyes to old ScoMo and Trump, in the sense that he doesn't really have like a compass. You know, he's just like the only true north that he has is power and gaining control over the people, sort of thing. Do you reckon that's true, and if so, like why?
Well, yeah, but it's just all conservative governments are exactly the same. It's just power hunger. Yeah. Well, I mean, all politics is to a degree, but there is some level of qualification and some sense of morality if you're fighting for a workers' party, on every sense of the matter. Because if you are smart enough to get into politics, you are smart enough to understand that if you are going in for a party that purely represents business interests, you're not doing good by the economy, you're certainly not doing good by the environment, you're not doing good for the population, you're just there to serve power. So the fact that there's all these colourful characters now, in fact, Slavoj Žižek predicted this when I was in university. He was saying that the new reign of politicians that will be on the conservative side will be these clowns that people kind of laugh at, and it just kind of becomes acceptable.
They're a distraction.
A distraction, but also kind of just makes people comfortable with the fact, with the corporate tyranny that they represent. They just kind of become a parody of themselves. Like, it's like, you know, that point where Iron Maiden, it was just like, this is a bit of a joke. That's what's happened to politics.
How do we fix it though, man? Like, because you know,
you don't.
You don't fix it?
No.
So we're all fucking doomed, is that what you're saying? Yeah.
I honestly believe that now, and it's because I've been my next stand-up show.
It, really?
Yeah.
Oh shit, that's so scary.
Because think about this. Since the beginning of modern democracy, which is about a little bit before World War I, around that area, in every Western democracy, the party that the major banks wanted to win has won 98% of the time. And that hasn't changed since. That is still the statistic today, and always has been. Very rarely do they lose, and if they do lose, they essentially design a coup to get that person out of power very quickly.
Aren't the banks slowly but surely losing a bit of power with things like blockchain and, you know...
Maybe.
But I mean... Slowly, like...
And we did have a Royal Commission.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that Royal Commission was a show.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah. It definitely was.
Yeah, it's like it's buying your time.
Yeah. And on the other thing is that I've been going extensively into media bias for the next show. That's my new area of study.
I like that.
And what you learn from it is that nobody actually thinks what they think because they thought it. And I mean, you can say that, you know, you think that because of your parents, but your parents learnt that from a media narrative that has existed and been deliberately designed. And the scariest thing about the media, it's a propaganda model that was invented in World War I by these two geniuses called Walter Lippmann, who's known as the father of modern day journalism, which is everything you need to know about journalism to this day, which is why everyone's always going, oh, stop giving ABC and SBS hard time. No, they're journalists. They're absolute shit. And they were designed to be shit. In World War I, there was a deliberate design to make them bad. And that has been running
deliberate design, you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Chomsky.
Manufacturing.
Chomsky goes a lot into Edward Bernays.
Yeah.
He goes a lot into because he was the father of PR, which PR is just another word for propaganda.
PR's dirty. Yeah, it is, isn't it? PR is one of the dirtiest fucking things I know, man. It's I was doing PR in uni, and I wish I had just walked out straight away because I really didn't understand what I was in there for. And then I kind of learned it towards the end. I was like, man, this is just like disgusting work. You're lying for big corporations. It's like,
you're paid to lie.
You're paid to spin bullshit. Yeah.
Mm. And it's the best example, and they're the people that believe in it the most, of the idea of a free market. The very fact that advertising exists proves that there's no such thing as a free market.
Yeah.
Because essentially what you're saying is that, the idea of a free market is that the best idea always wins, and if you build a better mousetrap, there'll be 100 people knocking at your door. But
what defines the best idea?
Exactly. What defines the best idea? The best idea is the one that has the most money behind it. That's essentially how it works.
Oh, that makes... Oh, jeez.
So that's basically it. And then when you realise that it doesn't really matter if Bernie Sanders wins one election or two elections, there is a whole machine in America, and now they've just become a global force. Basically, the empire is just two oil billionaires, which is the Koch brothers. But essentially, it doesn't matter if they win presidential elections. They're buying up all the judges, and they're indoctrinating the judges.
Yeah,
they're forcing them to go through a university degree and making them go through all these hoops. And so only the purest of the pure get to become supreme
they weed
judges.
out the weakest. For sure. Yes, I was listening to a podcast with you last night called Uncommon. You were on. Yeah. And you said something really alarming. You actually made me shit myself a little bit. You said that in the fall of an empire, a marker of a fall of an empire is when sports stars are paid way too much, and when celebrity chefs become elite
celebrities.
Sort of and immediately I thought of George Columbine, and I was like, holy shit, it's happening, man! The decline of the West is here.
Fuck. It would have to be like that little pudding cunt that made it happen as well. It is so indicative that meme. You can always tell that someone's a piece of shit, can't you? I always the minute I saw his face and him just stuffing food into his mouth like one of those fucking spirits and spirited away and it falling over his chin, you knew that he was a bad human being.
You can tell a lot of people from the way they do simple things.
Yeah.
If someone obviously that's not a good person. It's not someone who cares about where their food comes from or anything like that. No.
Well, that's my theory anyway.
Do you reckon that the West in general is in a decline?
It's irrefutable if you look at the statistics. First off, the American Empire, how they're just saying is this a decline in the American Empire? It's been declining since World War II. It's just been this gradual decline in GDP share. It's the same thing when all of these Western countries are constantly pushing that they've been saying that they've been having continual growth for so many years. If you look at where all that growth is going, it's just going straight into the Cayman Islands. It's not actually building things, which is why you see that there's all these buildings that are just being built. They just go up and then collapse 2 years later. That's not what ancient Rome used to look like even. There was buildings that are still around now. That's
exactly
not what's happening here. It's all just a facade.
So do you reckon, what should Australia do? Because, we're cozying up to America quite tightly. One would even arguably say that America has Australia right by the nutsack. So, what should we do as Australians to avoid that shit show?
And first of all, you should just acknowledge that it's a sinking ship and just bandy up to China.
You reckon bandy up to China? You reckon? China scares the fuck out of me though, bro.
And it does, and the reason it does, I would argue a lot, is because of the propaganda model. And it's because we are taught to be fearful of China. And yes, China has, this very repressive dictatorship in control, but that oppressive dictatorship got 450 million people out of poverty.
Yes.
Which is there's nothing comparable to that in the world.
No, never.
Furthermore, they were always asking to be opened up and be included in the open market. There is historical records of Chairman Mao asking the Americans, can we start up trade deals? Can we just exchange information with each other? Like that kind of stuff. The Americans were always trying to contain them. They're always trying to put trade tariffs on them. And the thing is, if you're a country where there is an empire actively trying to overthrow the government by any means necessary, so they're funding terrorist organizations within China. This is why when you always hear people going that, oh, they locked up 1 million people just for being Muslim on the coast of China. No, they were locking them up because the Americans have been paying for them to be radicalized for the last 20 years, just like they do in the Middle East. And so they have become a terrorist threat. And to quell that, the Chinese, not having time to fuck around because they've got 500 million people still in poverty, just have to lock those fuckers up.
Yes.
The thing is, if you are contained, and how oppressive you are on your own people is by a lot of measure by if there is an external force trying to overthrow you. You have to become more oppressive. You have to clamp down on your own population to keep them in order, because you can't have two fucking enemies at once.
I think like the bigger your population size as well, the more likely you are to be a bit of a dictatorship as well, because there's so many fucking people to deal with. And because like Australia by comparison to someone like America and China, we're pretty free, we're not very oppressive at all. Like we do have a lot of opportunity here.
But this is the other thing. Yes, on a micro level, that is true. And we are able to determine how our hospitals are run and how much funding police officers get. That's all fine. The genius of the US empire is it has created this empire where it seems like the people that are actually in control of their nation are in control of their nation. But if they step out of line with foreign policy or resource policy or something that actually they're interested in, because they don't actually care how we run our cops or what hospital system we have. That's not their concern. But if they're not getting cheap deals on iron ore, then they replace the government, like they did with Whitlam in 75, sorry.
Yeah, you actually opened my mind to that. That was insane. So did you hear about this? They pretty much like installed a coup in Australia to get rid of our Prime Minister. That's
November 11th.
Oh, shit, man. I can't believe that.
That's just too much for me.
See, so that's the thing, right? Yeah. So I don't know. It's this idea of and that all plays into the idea of the propaganda model, which is this illusion of like self-control and democracy, but it is an illusion.
I feel like Western countries beef when they're like coming after China. I think it's just jealousy, really. I mean, they wish they wouldn't have to fuck around with all like the media and propaganda if they didn't have to.
Exactly.
I reckon they wish they could just have like some writers make up some nice pamphlets, posters, put them out, and then just done. It'd be so much simpler.
It is.
Back to business.
Because it is quite sophisticated, the hoops that Trump had to jump through to get himself where he is, And in China, it's sort of like you just play the bureaucracy game and you're there, But
and the interesting thing about China as well, there was a saying in China, and I think these sayings are always overly simplified, but it is true to a degree that in China, you can change the policy but not the party. And in Western democracy, you can change the party but not the policy. There is a lot of truth behind that statement.
Wow.
In that, you can kind of rise up through the Communist Party, and there's arguments in the Communist Party, and because there is this... essentially, it just comes down to this. There is this... That's why, again, it's another one of these propagandized ideas that was set up just after World War I, which is that governments are bad. How do we restrict government power as much as possible? The evil government. The whole thing is because there is corporations that are propping up those governments. So they're trying to get the public to distrust the government. But the thing is, yes, like anyone who has too much power, that's never a good thing. But you would prefer to have a government in charge of a country than you would have corporations in control of the country.
And corporations are in control of the country, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the difference. Man. So that's basically all of Western democracy, and that's why it's eating itself, because it's the same thing that happens in most empires. There just becomes this cabal of elites that are never accountable to anyone. It's just this invisible power that's always there, and then there's a face, but behind that there's just a bunch of people that are making all the shots, and eventually they become inbred and they just become too complacent, and so they don't actually care anymore, and they become stupid. And that's the same thing in Australia. If you were smart, if you were part of the ruling elite, you would push for the Labor Party to be in power, because what's really bad for the ruling elite is a recession, which is exactly what the Liberal Party are bringing about, because they're incompetent.
It's coming, isn't it?
Yeah.
A global recession is coming, apparently.
Well, an Australian recession is definitely coming. Global recession, there's arguments towards that, but I would suspect that it is coming as well from my limited research.
That's very scary. Okay, just talk about the propaganda machine. How can we avoid falling into the trap of the propaganda machine?
First of all, you don't trust any major news organisation. You look at independent journalists, such as...
Would you consider yourself an independent journalist?
Nah.
You don't reckon?
No. I read independent journalists, and then I just...
But
you know what I am? I'm just a glorified teacher.
Actually, no, I have a theory on what you are. You're a glorified political cartoonist.
Yeah.
Because 10 years ago, your job didn't exist. What you do with your life, that's a pretty cool job. But I don't know, people like you, they would have been political cartoonists, I guess, back in the day. Making comments on the sly. Yeah.
That would have been the closest thing. You're right.
Yeah.
But again, they still would have been constrained by papers. They still couldn't have said what they wanted to say. So that's basically it. It's just look at independent media outlets. And honestly, the ones that get it most right is Michael, West, and Independent Australia. Everything after that, any branded news, they're not telling you the whole story, which is the whole point of it. It's just, look, everyone always goes The Guardian is so left-wing and Sky News is so right-wing. It's just called having an opinion. That's fine. It's not about that. What the design of it is, it's actually Walter Lippmann, he said it perfectly when he was saying that the news is terrible at telling you what to think, but it is remarkably successful in telling you what to think about.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Because in the last election, for instance, how they're just Labor's $1 trillion tax. That's all we care about is the tax. It's just isn't that funny that they don't care anymore about debt when we have the most amount of debt we've ever had in world history? They don't care about that at all. That's not an issue. You don't have the most of all time. That doesn't matter now. And we don't care about tax. Tax wasn't an issue at all when John Howard introduced the biggest tax in Australian history by a mile, putting a 10% tax on everything. That was fine. That didn't matter at all. You just cared about something that didn't even happen. The Tampa crisis, it was just apparently that's what Australia was concerned with. Something that didn't exist.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing, right? It's not about telling you what to think. It's telling you just what to think about. Just have vigorous debate with this one little subject. That's the scary part about it, I guess.
So when you make your videos, obviously you have a team that helps you research and whatnot, And so what's the framework of what sort of stories you cover, what sort of subjects you cover? What do you tell them to go look for and how?
Good question. You know what? It's just when it comes to my research, I just let him go nuts.
Yeah, okay.
I let him go wild. He's a rabid little 19-year-old. He knows what he's doing.
So it's a 19-year-old working for you. That's pretty cool. Yeah, nice.
And he gets me into a lot of trouble all this time on purpose. And I'm still hiring. He's a very sneaky little Weasley boy.
Yeah. Well, I heard about all the shit you got into with Vice a year ago. That was pretty intense.
No, it wasn't. That was the whole thing.
Well, that's just Vice
so
doing
stupid.
Yeah.
What?
That was Vice doing the same thing you're talking about, telling people what to think about. You know what I mean? They kind of made up a story about you, hey, in a certain way. It was.
Yeah, of course.
Dirty,
well, that's
man.
that. Well,
yeah. And I thought Vice was good, but then I found out they're part owned by Disney, so I just fuck you.
And before that, Murdoch.
Yes, damn, Murdoch, that little rap.
So it's always Vice. I don't even know does anyone take them seriously anymore?
No, not really. Most of the comments.
Every time I ever see comments, it's
cool
just
legit. Yeah. Back when Pharmacopoeia was in its heyday.
Who?
Yeah, Pharmacopoeia.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it's they do some pretty good documentary series, I reckon.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about those ones from 9
Pharmacopoeia.
years ago.
Yeah. That's the mean. That's been a little while.
It's been a while, man. It's amazing that they're still living off that, I guess, anyway. Well, not really. It's just corporations are just like, well, they have a cool font, so...
They used to go into war zones and, like, uncover proper, like, stories, but now it's sort of like, you know, bullshit. It sucks, yeah. So one thing that I wanted to ask you about as well, like, where do you reckon you see yourself in the next few years?
Just doing exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same thing?
My whole aim is to get the YouTube channel to about the same size as 7 News.
Yeah.
So if I'm reaching about 800,000 people a video, I'd be very happy.
Do you think that because you're not very, you know, you tend to push the brakes on being too out there with your opinions sort of thing, and to like ruffling people's feathers. Like there's a lot of Australian comedians like Isaac Butterfield, and he's like getting in a lot of shit all the time, you know. You don't really play that, hey? You sort of play it a bit more straight.
I mean, I'd like to play it. It's fun to do. It's always, you know what happens in my mind all the time. I'm a very troubled young man.
There's no other way to be. There's no other way to be. Yeah.
It's just, look, I'd love to talk about, you know, my spin on Israel Folau, but you know what? It doesn't actually fucking matter what a footy player thinks.
Because then you're buying into their shit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But
so
like maybe like it's a fucking merry-go-round. Hey, yeah.
It's a fucking merry-go-round. And like, dude, that's what I'm saying. The best way, actually, this is my tip to the listeners. The best way to immune yourself instantly to the propaganda model is to read Chomsky's Manufacturing Consent. It's one of the most important books I've ever read. Or just watch it. It's brilliant.
Chomsky's amazing. He's amazing.
He's amazing.
His ideas are even more relevant today than when he initially brought them out, you know? It's insane. Yeah.
Because he knows how the world is. He can predict things 20 years in the future, and it's true. After a while,
because he understands the mechanism.
Yeah, and once you understand the mechanism, it's the same thing with stand-up. Everything is just a few levers getting pulled over and over. Even at my side, I know now. You know when Chomsky's just doing some university lecture, and then there's some upstart just going, "You said that Iran is only putting up a defense mechanism to stop the American threat. Are you saying that why don't you just revoke your citizenship or something like that?" And, you know, he's like not remotely triggered at all. He's just kind of very boringly just responds. It's just like, here we go again.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, that's, even at my stage of just studying it for about 6 years, you just get very tired because you're right, it's the same fucking...
One of the most poignant Chomsky quotes, that's just really stuck with me.
Poignant, that's another good one.
It was in Requiem for the American Dream, like a documentary he did in 2016. So
I saw that. That was still on Netflix. Yeah.
But he said, tax day, I don't know what day it is, that tax day should be our
celebration.
4th of July.
Yeah, it should be a celebration.
And that's so it's like we've all agreed on what we want to do with the money that we're happy to give. And he's like, but no one likes tax day. Everybody's complaining about tax day. And I was like,
they don't even want you to think about it.
Blew my mind. And I was like, why is that blowing my mind?
Yes.
Why is that a fact that is so astounding to me?
I love how
and then I was just really sad for like 2 weeks.
No, that's always what happens. Because that's the thing, it's also, because the things that Chomsky says, they're always just so simple, and you just realize how much shit you've been taught in your life that like you're just like, holy shit, that's a revelation. You mean the candidate with the most money wins? Fuck. Like, like these are just very basic facts if you think about it, but there's just so much obfuscation that it's never discussed.
It's like things that I had like really strong suspicions about, but I never felt like, I felt like if I properly accepted those things as truths, then I would just descend into depression.
Yeah.
Like, really. But no. But yeah, don't descend into depression. Watch Chomsky, read Chomsky, and you won't feel as bad. Because it is positive, really. He's kind of freaking out and trying to make everyone else freak out, but it's a positive thing.
Yeah.
He's trying to get people to be woke.
It's a great message. The good type of work, you know? Yeah.
Not the woke type where you say that you're woke.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask you about as well. Labor, you know, didn't know what the fuck they were doing in the last election, like, at all. They had no message, you could tell that they were just lost, you know? Because the Labor's, like, been conflated with the left until very recently, you know, they're pretty much just, like, the same as the Liberals. how should leftist parties and just like the left in general fix themselves? Because you would consider yourself left, right? Like,
no.
You would
See, this is again. Look, I'm sorry. It's just once I get into a subject, I'm just going to admit something. I'm pretty sure I've got undiagnosed autism. Like, just
get with you.
It's just an AA meeting. But like I've just been studying this extensively now, and again, you realise that all of these labels, left, right, communist, libertarian,
they don't exist, man.
They don't exist. Yeah. They're not a thing. So basically, I just go where the facts go. That's pretty much it. These labels were designed by Edward Bernays to split up populations, and again, he also included in that making sport a huge thing, so that people identify, like, you know, so that it starts making patterns in their life of just being like, well, I support the Canberra Raiders and they're a green team, and oh look, they're a blue and a red team, so that's sport as well. Like it's aimed at hitting.
It's the Coliseum, really. Like every time I watch AFL, I moved here when I was like everyone's like getting around AFL, and it's all these guys in short shorts like wrestling each other.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the Coliseum. Like,
it's the Coliseum, yeah. Sport does have its place, but you know, like it's
sure.
Fuck it, yeah. It's
but you have to know what it is.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. It's like if you're reading a fantasy book, you don't actually think that the fucking world is like a dead, you know, the planet in Doom.
Yeah.
It was a while ago that I read it. I can't remember. But you know that there's that part of the question, I guess. But the other part is that again, there was a study done in 1968 in the US election where they were asking. They went through all the media. It was one of the most extensive media analysis studies ever done. Essentially, what they've discovered was that the American public didn't even know what the campaigns were of the two major parties. What they thought were the campaigns of the two major parties was what the mainstream media told them it was. So say that the Republicans were running on defense, just for example, and like, you know, I don't know, the Democrats were running on healthcare. If the media told them that it was the economy, everyone thought the election was being based on the economy. Yeah. So actually, the vast majority of the population didn't even know what the campaign was. And if you look at it, you can say that the Labor Party's campaign was a mess, but so was the Liberals. It wasn't even a fucking campaign. It was just being like tax, yay, we win. Like that was.
No, man, okay. Something from your, I guess you call it like coverage of the campaign. I was watching those videos when you were bringing them out, and they were so fucking entertaining. Because one thing that you were doing in those videos, I used to watch TV. I used to watch TV so much when I was younger, and I used to remember the campaign ads, and I used to remember the campaign ads, and that voice would come up. It's like, John Howard.
Yeah.
And you were doing that voice. It's like, fuck. I was even laughing. I was even giggling at it back then. My parents were like, why are you laughing at that?
It's scary.
It just reminded me of the Simpsons in a way. Like, you know, how self-aware it was, and just like silly. Yeah.
Well, that was the genius of the Simpsons. It actually did immunize our generation.
It really did.
It gave us a grounding, and you can see it. You can see it in people that didn't watch The Simpsons.
Didn't watch The Simpsons.
I've been rewatching. I'm on it now. Literally last night.
What the fuck?
I was raised by conservative parents. So.
Yeah.
Very Christian. Is that the deal?
Mm-hmm. Fuck. Yeah.
Dude, you've missed out. You've really missed out.
I've been trying to.
I'm on season 4. But it's weird you guys talking about this now because like I watched the episode last night where Marge like has a breakdown and she like stops in the middle of the bridge.
Yeah.
Like and at the end like Mayor Quimby makes it like I now declare this Marge Simpson Day. He goes to like a security and he's like I know, like, yeah, well, like, watch them. He said, toss them a fish and watch them clap their fins like shields or something like that. And I was like, yeah.
Shit.
And that's season 4. That's like so.
Oh man, The Simpsons is one of those like rare shows where it's like an idiot can watch it and be like, I love this show. But then a really smart person can also watch it and be like, I love this show as well because it's so deep.
I was actually reading a book a while ago. I can't remember. Planet Simpsons. That's right. It was this guy that's a professor of. I can't remember what now. I think it was English literature, and he was essentially making the argument that The Simpsons is more clever than Shakespeare is. It's a big call, but I don't know, man. Like, I found it more entertaining than reading fucking Taming the Shrew.
Yeah. You said that you read for like a couple of like hours a day. Like, what kind of stuff are you reading?
Well, now I'm just reading nothing but media advice. I've been reading nothing but academic books on that for the last 6 months.
So you're performing your current show now, but you're preparing for your next show while doing your current show.
Yeah.
I like that. That's hard work.
You know what? You're hired.
Yes.
You sound good kid.
It seems like a very, good business. Like, I want to be a part of that. Yeah, it is nice to see that. Thank you.
Always. We've got we're short on time. You've got places to be, things to do. One last thing that I wanted to talk to you about, you probably have something you want to ask as well. I was listening to another podcast of you with this guy called Jeremy Kahn. It was a really nice podcast. And he asked you...
Who the fuck's that?
Jeremy Kahn. Yeah, you were on the podcast.
Was he? Yeah, I can't remember.
That's your friend. Isn't that, what's his name? Naratu or Naru or...
Nosferatu?
Narelle?
No, Jeremy Kahn, his name is.
Ah.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know. We put something together.
We'll cut around this.
Okay, you better cut that out. Yeah, I just can't remember. Sorry.
That's alright.
But yeah, in the interview, he asked you if you like ever want to do job in politics. You're like, no, fuck that. Which is understandable. Like, fuck that. But then again, like maybe we need people like you who are so transparent, so honest, and obviously passionate about the future of this country. And just the future of the earth in general, and just humanity in general to lead us.
Well, that's the whole point. Is that if you are part of me, this is the whole thing of everyone just being like Anthony Albanese or Bill Shorten's boring. It is designed in such a way so they have to be boring. Essentially, the whole mantra of the Labor Party is how do we stay off page 1 of the Telegraph, where when you go to the Liberal Party headquarters, all they're focusing on is how do we get on page 1 of the Telegraph.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So you try and elect people that just, somewhat likeable. That's it.
Yeah.
It didn't happen with Bill Shorten, but the whole aim is to just make someone that's just extremely unoffensive and grey. You have to, by the very design of it.
Or a caricature. Like Abbott, like just a caricature. That'll just distract.
They'll allow that on the conservative side of politics.
Yeah.
You'll have your Boris Johnsons there, and they'll defend that to the
Boris
text.
was a journalist before he got into politics. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because again, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Because he even...
I was astounded by how similar he looks to Trump.
I know.
I saw someone had taken 2 photos of them playing tennis and put them either side. It was so good.
That was a very satisfying picture.
Yeah.
Both so sweaty and fat.
You can see Trump's underwear through his white pants. Like it's through his white pants.
I love that picture. Yeah.
Holy shit. Do you have anything else you want to discuss?
Not really.
Yeah, kind of basis. Yeah.
I don't know.
So we're fucking doomed, and
basically, that's how it's. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you very much for having me.
That's all right. Thank you so much for coming in, man. Honestly,
that's all right.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.